All right, hello everyone. Welcome to podcast number 3 from the Dirty 30 cohort in St. Leo University. I'm on with my co-host Jonathan Abrahams and Alden Robinson II. How you guys doing?
What's going on, Kenny? Hey, Jonathan.
Doing great, man. I see you guys.
That break was fantastic.
Needed.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yes,
That
yes, yes. Still worked my butt off, but at least it wasn't doing schoolwork.
I didn't know what to do at nights. I was like, what do I do? Because I'm so used to every night coming home and doing homework.
Just start writing papers just randomly,
Yeah.
Somebody's like, you could work on this other study you want to do. I'm like, man, I'm not working on anything academic while I'm on a break. So
I'm sure we have a couple of our cohort members that maybe started writing some of their articles or something for
you and Brittany probably already got this class done in the break. So
man. I started with so much high hopes that I was going to get published, and now I'm just praying I get my dissertation done. It's like, oh Lord, I just need
yeah,
to do it.
I thought about I got all ambitious, at the beginning we were down there in Florida, and now I'm kind of like, let me just coast through. Let me do a very simple dissertation. Let me just do what I need to do to be called doctor. I'll do some other research later on, but
Here we go, man. I'm with you.
How was so now we're going into our third semester, right? Our third class. Um, Obviously, the first introduction was pretty cool because we got to see each other during residency. This last course was the first, I would say, the first of many that's going to be the challenging part of actually like just staying interactive online. Working through, getting to work through. But how was this last course specifically for you? What were some of the challenges you saw? What were some of the things that you found that was, I guess you would say, easy? And what will you say would be the best tip into going to the next class? Pro tip.
Man, that's a good question. Um, good questions. I think the second class was, I wouldn't say necessarily like challenging. It was just kind of learning the what was expected, and I do think I did learn a lot, especially when it came to the writing piece. And we might have spoke a little bit on this even during the last podcast. If I can't remember when we did that, but definitely kind of writing in a specific academic style, the way of how you want to. Cite in text or narrative citations versus parenthetical, like which one is more scholarly, all of that stuff. I learned a lot about that, as well as, of course, the historical nature of leadership and stuff. So I thought it was good. I thought it was good. It was challenging in some aspects, though. But, what about you guys?
I think every class our writing is going to evolve. I mean, and it's going to evolve to where we want it by the time we write our dissertation. But I think that learning each professor and how they want you to write is yeah, we have to figure that out quickly.
Yeah.
Because you could be halfway through a class and realize, hey, what I've been doing before is not, and
No.
I get the parenthetical, the narrative. I mean, you're right. We're not telling a story in academics. We're presenting facts and documents. But I think I don't know how they transition that and make that smoother for us to go. Hey, listen. So your writing's going to evolve, but I would like to see a consistency amongst. Hey, listen. We're going to grade everything kind of on the same. Here's the scale that we're going to grade everything on, and everybody's going to kind of look at it like, yeah, our writing's going to evolve, but the way you're writing papers and getting a 95 in one class, and then we're turning around and getting a 90 or an 85 in another, we're not different people. We're not, and it should be challenging. I agree, but got to be some consistency, I think. And I think we just got to figure out quickly how the next instructor is going to want us to write.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys think? Oh, go ahead, Alden.
I was gonna say maybe we all just send an email like, how do you want it? Somebody like, how do you want this paper written?
We need your step-by-step guidance on this. And that's the interesting thing, because I wonder, like, how much is it academic writing versus preference versus like what is actually published like right now. Because, there's even with some of the research that we've done so far, I have seen people write, and I know there's writers from all across the world. So I can't say that everyone that I read writes like how the last professor said that we needed to write. And so that's probably another confusing thing for me, is like, okay, are there people that are published that aren't writing to academic standards, or is some of it like a preference type of thing,
So I would say this, kind of going back to answer my own questions, right? The last course we took was applied management theory, right? I think, right, I think the way the courses and the way that the program is set up is towards writing our dissertation. So everything plays a part for the final culmination event, which is
Right.
so. To your on what to write and how we're writing, I think it plays a part of understanding the class we're taking, right? So applied history management, obviously we looked to really trying to understand landmark articles, how to find them, how to utilize them and write them into whatever we're writing. And to Kenny, to your point, trying to understand what is it that you really want from us when we're writing these research papers is important. But I think it's also the nature of the class, right? I think it does change as we will go with different courses, because our two courses are going to global leadership and ethics course. So I don't know I'm writing, but when we're talking about landmark articles and to integrate them into our writing, that's actually geared towards writing. I think this new class is going to be more about like the theory aspect about how we think, right? Maybe the writing is not going. It's still going to be there. I mean, it's still a deep course, but I think the writing might not be as, I don't know, applicable, but harped on, right? More about how we think about, right? Ethics. That's how I think about it. Really, you have to think about ethics and not really integrate it in writing. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. But then they have to grade more consistently if that's going to be the case. If you want me to focus on ethics, don't make me focus on the dynamics of my writing. And my writing dynamics should be good because I made it through 2 classes. So make the focus on ethics so I learn ethics, and not so much a focus on, I mean, at this point, 3rd class in, we know how to write papers. We've written enough of them in the last 2 classes that I can read both of your discussions without you guys put your name on it. I can tell which one's yours and which one's yours. Just because we're going into the 3rd class together, and I know how both of you guys write.
Yeah.
So, but I think that if they're going to make, that's what was kind of hoping, is that in these classes, to learn about theory and to learn about ethics and global leadership, make that the focus. Then I'm not panicked because how are you going to, grade my paper? I know, grammatical errors. I know I'm not going to AI write it. You don't have to keep telling me that in the class.
Right.
So, but make the focus on global leadership and ethics so I can learn that subject.
So you're saying essentially, this is global leadership and ethics, not English, top scholarly. I mean, but it is and it isn't. And I understand what you're saying. They and hopefully going into this new course, we have to see. But
I think there's probably a sweet spot somewhere where you have your own style, but it still comes out in the right academic voice. And maybe that's what each of these teachers are trying to teach us in their own way, and maybe coming from different angles. Like I know, like in this past class, for instance, I wrote one paper trying to follow the instructions, that it was probably in my opinion, one of the more worst written papers, because I was trying so hard to meet the other guidelines. I was like, this just doesn't sound right. it's so, but I think maybe one professor is really trying in one way to correct one part of the academic writing, and then another one, like even this professor, he seems to be more about just like APA, make sure everything on APA is correct. I get the sense that if you mess up APA, it might be like a 10-point doc or something. So, I mean, maybe this is the class where, yes, we're supposed to learn maybe ethics, but we're really going to learn APA as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, that's what the journey is about.
Well, it's definitely a journey. I think part of the fun is trying to figure it out, like we just talked about. I mean, at this point, we know APA. I mean, I probably can cite stuff out of the APA book I couldn't before, but I mean, it's that part to me is I mean, it's just, I don't know. I guess every class just gets us closer to where we need to be, like Alden said initially, and we just kind of look at it as, this is just the next challenge in that journey, and the quicker we can figure out, we should be able to figure out how they're going to grade by that first discussion question. Honestly, that should be kind of okay, this is how he's going to grade or she's going to grade stuff, so we have an idea. And maybe we bring Dr. Schuback on, Dr. Woods on, and say, so hey, here's one thing we kind of noticed. How do you guys make the focus on we need to learn this topic, and not as much as let's tweak your APA. We know you're going to tweak the APA when we get to the dissertation. You're not even going to let us turn it in if it's not ready.
I think it was Kenny. Wasn't it you who you found somebody? It's like who's that residency, and I think you had read someone's dissertation and you called out something on it. Was that you or was that Troy?
Yeah, there were APA errors in the dissertation.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously people, like nothing's going to be 100%. So like to your point, it's like I want to learn obviously how to write it, but I also want to learn the actual, like we're going to be learning about leadership and ethics, not just how to illustrate that in writing. Like what is the actual course about and learning that about.
Yeah, 50% of this journey is for me is because I want to learn the subject matter and master it. Not, you're the best APA, writer on the planet. Whoop-de-doo, doesn't do me any good if I don't know these topics to defend my dissertation.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what, from this last class, I hear the word seminal and I'm just like super excited. I'm like, the seminal person for this. Like they'll talk about it on the news and they're like, the seminal this. I'm like, oh, yes, I get it. Okay.
That was actually last in history of applied management, because I don't know. I think I always think so much where I'm like, well, how is that person the seminal person? Like where did what I mean? Like there wasn't a person before that person who thought about that, like, and then it's like, well, can we be referencing like the Bible? Because like, it was mentioned in far back, like you give credit to as a seminal person, So,
well, Moses said back in the day that
seminal author Adam, it's like, okay.
Yeah, but now if you say history of leader or management theory, I'm like, what do you want to know?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
And that's how I want to feel after every class. It's like we can have a discussion. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah. In that sense, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just saying, I feel like we learned a lot about Max Weber. I feel like everything was more about the writing than it was actually learning about the history of it. But other than that, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, John.
That's probably a good point though too. It's just like I promised to myself that I wouldn't let the DBA be like my master's, which I feel like I just went in one ear and kind of went out the other ear. And sometimes I think that could happen. Like, it was, to me, a lot of times it was more about the writing than the actual learning of it, because I was so worried about the writing part that I kind of, kind of miss some of the other stuff. It's like, it's a very interesting subject, but if you're so worried about how you're writing and all of this stuff, you could kind of just miss the other, which should be the real important part too. So it's a tricky balancing act.
What's crazy though? I think, and I feel like I realized this maybe in the second class as well. Like, how can I say this? When you look at any journal that you find to reference, right? The structure of it looks the exact same.
Yeah.
It looks the exact same. Every journal I've been reading, like the format, the way that's written, the way the chronological order of things. It's like the more and more I realize it, it's kind of like it's a difference between just writing about something because you want to write on a topic and then following an actual order of structure where anybody should be able to look at it and like, oh, this is a scholarly journal. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can just look, kind of like what Kenny was just saying. Sometimes you could just look at something, like you could look at our writings and say who is who. Like I could look at an article and tell you if it's a scholarly journal or not, right? Just because of the way the format looks, the way it's written. And I feel like that's where ultimately we're heading to, because it's like, who is reading these papers? The people who are reading these papers are scholars. They're people who's looking for information and needing to understand it and rewrite it. It's like a link across the board. Like music is anybody in the world can read the same piece sheet music in any type of language. So I feel like when we write these articles, that's the same way. It's geared to speak to people within our community, right? So that they know how to read it. It's not just people writing how they want to write. So I know it has a purpose, and I feel like it is a little bit aggravating because we don't have like that actual guide of like, hey, you're gonna have this, you're gonna learn this, you're gonna learn that in the writing aspect, because they throw in the courses with it, right? It's like you're gonna learn ethics, but then we might learn, like, I don't know, something in ethics on how to write in APA format. And it's like, which one are we doing?
Yeah, but let's be honest. Okay, at this point in this academic career journey that we're on, we know we can write, seriously. And
Absolutely.
I think we need to stop letting ourselves get caught up in the fact that we know we can write, okay? We know APA. If we can't, we can find it if we don't know where it's at. So I think we need to just we need to figure out a way to move past that and go, I want to learn. And I
Yeah.
know I can write. Just if they could just give us that little bit of consistency in everybody grading our stuff, then we the pressure could be off of us for, oh my God, is this formatted correctly, and is he gonna, like, class we have coming up is pretty strict, so we know we can't turn in anything late, so we already know that. So what can we do to make sure we're gonna find a way to make sure we don't turn it in late? Same thing with writing, man. We know we can write. We wouldn't be sitting here having this discussion right now going into class number 3. So
I think you
wouldn't make it even to the DBA program if we couldn't write. So
I think you found a new topic. I think we should I think it's more, bro, like the consistency of professors' expectations to what they, them being the expectation that they expect. Because how many times throughout your academic journey, bro, any class you've ever taken, as a teacher, always changed like the way they grade things. It's like like the way he did it last thing is like, well, I'm a new professor, and this is the way I grade, and it just changes up everything about how you write. You know what I mean? I think
yeah.
that's maybe there should be a standard across the board for all professors to grade the same type of way.
But future professors, we got to make sure we don't kick ourselves in the butt. I mean, when we get there, we're probably like, "Oh man, I'm going to change this thing up so much. I'm going to make this like that. I'm going to add this and this," and then we'll be like, "Oh man, but I hate it when that other professor did that and change it up on me." But I could see the appeal of a teacher like really like trying to make it their own or something, even though it's not always it kills consistency wise.
I'm going to be honest. If I'm teaching and I'm teaching business ethics, I want my students to know business ethics when they get out of that class. Yeah, you know what? APA and all that stuff is important, and I get it. But you're gonna write this entire program. When you're in my class, you're gonna learn and understand business ethics. That's what I want you to get out of class. Not,
Yeah.
oh my God, he graded. I had 2 mistakes on the paper, so I was fighting that the entire semester. No, if you're consistently making mistakes, let's get you some help. But seriously, I want you to learn the topic, man. I want you to master that topic. So when you're done, you're that expert in that field. So
No, because like we might be going kind of like what Jonathan was saying is like the information is flowing and we're learning it in the moment, but how are we retaining it moving forward?
Right.
Because I was so worried about like the writing fact that like I just told you, like, Max Weber and all the applied management theories that we learned, it's kind of like I wish I'd have spent more time actually learning and trying to retain that information rather than remembering if I should do it in text or parenthetical.
Mm.
I think we bring Dr. Shu back and we have that discussion and say, hey, for the future, what about this? I mean, it's I think we can influence future cohorts.
Because wasn't that class like about that? I mean, the first class we took, wasn't that kind of like I would assume if we have a
This
class or the writing aspect to it, then we should focus in on the learning aspect of our different classes.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. So going into this next section, this new semester and everything, what are you guys' like goals, things that I think someone asked this probably probably at the beginning of this, or was that I can't remember. Like, so the other aspect of that question was like, what are the goals? Like, what's our aim for these next 2 classes on this semester?
Well, I know for one, as I've told you gentlemen already, being in a new position, especially in the one I'm in, it's like 12-hour days, right?
Mm,
The previous position I had, but different, right? Because I just feel like the workload is a little bit more. So for me, it's going to be very interesting to see how I integrate my work lifestyle now with this type of level academia, because you know it takes a lot of thinking, a lot of processing to write a research paper at this level. And if I'm getting home at 7 o'clock and I didn't have barely had lunch during the day, I want to see how that's going to be. I think the goal is to set up my priorities to ensure that I'm able to stay focused, right? So I have to make sure that I'm setting a schedule. So my priority is going to be setting a schedule, specifically answering your question, um,
mhm,
and trying to also set aside enough time for family time as well. You know what I mean?
mm.
What I don't want to get into is I'm working so much, and then I come home and I got to do coursework. And then as I'm doing my coursework, it's like, where did I put my family in there? So
Mm.
prioritizing things is going to be my goal for this next semester.
I like that. It's prioritizing as well as schedule
Yep.
creation and maintenance.
Yeah. I think
Or-
I want to learn about global leadership and ethics. I mean, that's what I want to do, and I want to continue to be able to balance it. I mean, it's I know I've talked about this before. I try to do homework during the week so I can have the weekends off to hang out with the wife and do other stuff. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. I think it's always going to be challenging throughout this program to find that balance. I mean, Jonathan, we had conversations before this podcast, with you and kind of what you decide to do. We're glad you decide to stay, but
Yep.
it's challenging. I mean, it's you know, there's so much going on in life that unless you're just a full time student, I don't know anybody that really is. You got to try to find that balance. So I think that's just always going to be that continuation of finding that balance where you want to do well, but you don't want to get so burned out you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Well, we are in our it's crazy, man. We're in our third semester. Like we've
I
already
know.
completed 2, and we're starting the journey of our third, man. And honestly, time is flying.
It is. It is. I'm glad. I'm ready to get back to it, though. I'm like, let's get this over with, man. I want to get through these classes, write this dissertation so bad. Basically, 'cause that's my key to stop working, man. Once that's done, I'm going to retire and start teaching. That's it for me. So I'm like, let's go.
So is that part of your timeline when you like dissertation starts? Is that when you're going to put in papers, drop papers?
Yeah.
Oh
When
wow.
we talked about this when I graduate, and it doesn't make sense to try to teach now while working because I mean, I need one more thing to do.
Right.
But when I'm done, then have that degree in my hand, then colleges are a lot more apt to say, "Oh, hey, doctor, we need you to teach." Than, "Oh, you have a master's degree." Well, everybody has a master's degree. Well, not everybody has this degree that we're going to get, especially the DBA. So yeah, that's kind of the time frame. I'm just going to retire and start teaching and move to Europe.
Love it, bro. Love it.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's probably one of the keys is to kind of know why you're doing what you're doing, keeping that kind of on the forefront, and then helps you get through it, It's part of even my decision. Like, as I was telling you guys earlier, I had a whole new thing that came up this year, and I was like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can actually keep going with this. Is basically almost like a whole new job type thing while I'm doing what I'm currently doing. So I was like, ah. But at the same time, if number one, I said to you guys before, I can't imagine not being in this cohort. I was like, man, we know each other. We're hang out. Obviously, we got our podcasts and stuff going on, all of this stuff. And then we're going to probably see each other, I'm sure, sometime this year. Is it August again or? Okay, forgot when.
I don't know if they'll do it this year or next year, but I mean, that's the cool part about the cohorts, man. We're lifelong friends. I mean, long after this program's over and we're doctors. Hey, man, I'm gonna go see Dr. Robinson over in Houston, man. Watch the Chiefs beat up the Texans again. So
yeah, brother. So I'll go to the game with you.
So here's a question. Here's a question for you guys. What's the support system that you guys have in place to help you succeed at home? How's that working?
So, mind if I go first, Johnson?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So, I'm glad you asked that because I actually want to bring him on to the podcast at some point in time. As you guys know, I was in the Marine Corps, right? And I always feel like you are the people you hang around with. Right? I think it's like if you're around two fools, you're the third fool. If you're around like 2 millionaires, you'll be the third millionaire. And the reality to it is, I think that's absolutely true. And anyway, I had a good friend of mine. His name is Dr. Damian Lutz. He was in the Marine Corps with me, and we were both sergeants at the time. And I remember when he was getting his bachelor's. I remember when he got his master's. He's got his doctorate. He had the EDU, I think, is it the education doctor?
Yeah.
So, and he's a big inspiration for me because one, he is like I've seen him go through the similar process that I went through and that I'm going through. And he was here actually for New Year's, and we were talking about the program. He was asking me things about it, and he was asking me, what questions do you have? What things he help with? So when you talk about support, number one for me particularly is that I have someone who's went through that process, who's watching me go through it and extending the same type of support and help that he once wanted. Right? It's kind of like saying I'm the oldest and I didn't have a bigger brother to show me the path to help me out this way, and he didn't have it, so now he's extending that to me. Like, hey man, this is what I wish I had, and so I think that's a big support. But then aside from that, is also I think my wife, as she's also going through school too. So if you have the support with people telling you you can do it when it's getting challenging, man, I think that's what you truly need. What I truly been. So for me, it's been those two people, right? Like a person that's been through it, and then someone helping me, supporting me through it.
That's awesome.
And that's solid, bro. Yeah, that's great. for me, I would probably say it's been my wife. She's been solidly behind me, just like your wife. She's still in school too. She's working on her nurse practitioner
Oh,
thing,
wow.
and so we're part of the reason she was in school and I was feeling kind of left out, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should hop in. Um, but yeah, no, she's been an inspiration, man. Even up until this point, she was like, "I think you could handle it." She was like, "Just go ahead and do it." And for her to say that, and we have two kids and stuff, 3 and 5, and they're a lot, man. I mean, you guys, you got to realize you want to play with them a little bit. You want to spend time with them. So you have to juggle that stuff correctly, or they're gonna just like they'll grow up to hate school. They'll be like, "Oh man, yeah, Dad was always in school and he never played with us," and so it'll be the last thing I would want. But yeah, man, I would say yeah, it's my wife. I can imagine doing it without her. What about you, Kenny?
That's the same thing. I mean, I can't talk enough about that woman. I mean, she's amazing. I mean, she's like, what are you waiting for? You want to be a doctor? Go be a doctor. She goes, she takes care of stuff like, school's getting ready to start again. She takes care of so much, so I can able to come up here, do homework, knock it out.
Yeah.
I mean, she was with me through my master's degree, and with all of that. So I mean, it's just amazing. And I'm going to be honest, man. I mean, you two. I mean, this cohort, meeting you guys, has been an inspiration because we can push each other, we can bounce ideas off each other, man. And it's just that if one thing St. Leo definitely did right is put everybody in a cohort together to where
Yes.
we could learn together and we could go through, this journey together. And you don't feel like you're doing it by yourself when you have people in the cohort, man. You feel like, no, we make sure everybody gets through, make sure everybody survives. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's you guys, my wife, that's and just this quest to learn more. Just awesome.
Yeah, shame. I mean, like you two. Obviously, our cohort is not extremely big, right? Um, but sometimes gravitate to certain people, right? And I feel like I can reach out to anybody in our cohort. Uh, who have been like phenomenal. For I have last and forward, and to Jonathan, it's I feel thank you for sharing some of the things you shared with us, because sometimes it's not easy to talk to people about certain things you're going through, and for us to come together and try to find a solution. Same for me when we have issues. I have issues. I come to you too, and you guys help me find solutions. Um, I got to say also thank you for
Man, yeah, I gotta give that thanks back to you guys as well. I mean, like as I said earlier, if it weren't for you two in our text message discussion, I probably would have fully skipped this semester. Like I was really close to doing it. And it wasn't even you guys just saying, "Don't do that, man," or anything like that. You guys were actually really supportive. You were like, "Hey man, do what you gotta do," everything like that. But just after that discussion, I was like, man, I'm not going to get that anywhere else. I actually don't want to lose these guys. I was like, I'm just gonna have to work this out. We're gonna have to make this work.
I, I'm telling you, man, this cohort clicked in Florida. I mean, everybody just, it was great, and it was a good time, and I really wish we did more of these, like a couple times a year. But it's pricey to go to Florida and stuff. But
yeah.
it was fun, and it just. I feel at home at St. Leo, and I have not felt that in any other school. And like I said, having the cohort, man, we're not doing this by ourselves. We're doing it together.
Yeah.
This is a shameless plug for doing the DBA program. If this ever gets out to non-DBA students, do the DBA program. Biggest thing is this cohort. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the camaraderie here. I mean, you guys have done. I think you guys have done online school and stuff like that. I know for me, in any other online setting, I have not had. I couldn't name any other student, could barely name a professor that I still remember, at this point, or much less, unless we were forced to do a project together. I just, I can't name anyone. I wasn't friends with anyone like that, and so.
I did my online master's degree at St. Leo. And I'm with you. I can't remember anybody. It wasn't anything like this. So this is definitely this is great that St. Leo did this and put this together. So
Can I
good
can
for
I
you.
share something with you guys?
Yeah.
So and we're talking about cohorts and obviously our DBA program. Because when I was talking to Dr. Lutz, I was telling him, when I first brought it to him, and he was like, DBA, and I was like, yeah, man. And then I just looked it up, and I finally found it. It says DBA holders are rare. DBAs are uncommon, representing only 2% of people with higher business degrees. In 2021, 5,000 people graduated DBAs compared to over 250 who graduated MBAs or other business degrees. Now, I don't know the total number. I don't think they even truly have a number, or 2%. So just 2% of all people with degrees, have higher education degrees, have DBAs, man. So
DBAs.
not only is the degree that we have very, 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 very rare, but this cohort, right, getting that type of degree is what makes it even more special, because we're only a part of 2% of people who've ever done what we're doing, particularly for this degree. So that's how special, and that's how moving forward, man, we have to think about everything that we do. And as brothers, man, I'm so happy that I'm doing this with you guys.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Absolutely, bro.
This has been great.
Let's see. One more question. You guys got anything you want to ask before we take off?
Mm,
I have a feeling we'll have a lot to say after we finish our first assignment.
Right.
On this the thing. But no, I just I'll be happy to hear from some of our other cohort members and stuff like that, as well as other professors or other faculty and everything as well. It'll be nice to hear some of the different perspectives, and we all have our past, we have our journeys, and we have our family life and all this stuff. So it's always interesting to hear from you guys, and it'll be interesting to hear from some of the others too about how they're dealing with all of this.
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll meet again in a month, and we'll see if we can get some of the other cohort guys. I know Cheyenne wanted to come today, but she was tied up. Brittany's actually out on a cruise and wasn't sure if she could get the connection out there. So hope she's having a good time, and we'll catch her next time. But
Yeah.
I was thinking even like Yaw as well.
Yeah.
Maybe
Check in on him.
He has a pretty cool story and stuff, I'm sure. And
yeah, I talk to Crystal once in a while, so we can get Crystal on here to say
Yeah.
hi. And you know what? We should bring Nick on to get to know Nick better, since Nick's kind of new to us last semester. So
is he a part of a different cohort, or how I don't even.
And I don't know. We'll probably have to ask him, but I think probably what happens is, let's say life happens and you have to kind of stop going, then they probably just put you back in with the next cohort where you left off. I would assume so. And maybe that's a question we asked Dr. Shu. How do we wind up with people that didn't start in our cohort that are in our cohort, and so just kind of figure that out. But we can bring Nick on. I get to know Nick more, and so we'll throw it out there.
Even we have some cohort members that started with us, but we never met in Florida. That would be nice to have them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of meet them in person. I haven't even seen them on our classes, so that would be our weekly.
Yeah, there's usually about 5 or 6 of us on the classes every week, and I think that has to do with people's schedules and work. I don't think it's anything other than that. I know y'all works usually every Monday, so he can't be on. And
yeah, I mean, I know it's probably work from the majority of people. I'm lucky to be able to get off on time, but even then, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, well, I'll send out a email to the class. After the first week, we'll do I know we got a Zoom call Tuesday, and just say, hey, listen, once a month we get together, usually on the weekends because of schedules. We do this podcast. You guys interested in coming on and sharing your story, part of your journey, and getting to know you guys better. And I'll see about one of these. We'll make it a Dr. Woods where she could talk about what she does, and because I think what she does is invaluable to what we did that first class, especially. But she's definitely interested in coming on.
Well, I sent her an email on a Sunday today. She responded probably within an hour. So
Yeah, she's
she's on
fantastic.
point.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you guys later. Stay safe.